Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward.
Chapter 1. Robbery. Hand over your brains obediently. We'll collect them all and sell them to Muzan Kibutsuji, just kidding. Solemn declaration, any poorly written plot points in this article were written by the author's identity V character and have nothing to do with the author personally. Well-written points are undoubtedly written by the author. Night always falls exceptionally early on Fujikasane Mountain, or rather, the darkness here never truly dissipates. A nauseating stench permeated the surroundings, the remnants of countless swordsmen who had perished here over the decades. At the heart of this deathly silence and stench, a bloated, grotesque monster covered in dark green arms lurked in the shadows. However, less than 3 meters away from the monster, on a large blue stone, lay a boy whose appearance was completely out of place. Kiyohiko sat with his legs crossed, a blade of grass he'd plucked from who knows where dangling from his mouth, his hands behind his head, gazing contentedly at the starry sky obscured by the leaves above. Despite being a demon, he didn't exude any menacing killing intent, instead, he radiated a lazy, picnic-like air. "Hey, Hand Demon Lord, you're not thinking about how to kill me right now, are you?" The boy turned his head, his unusually vertical pupils flashing with a playful light, and said with a grin to the mountain of flesh. The enormous monster the Hand Demon suddenly twitched its countless arms, as if it were desperately suppressing some kind of impending rage. Beside him, Kiyohiko shifted his position, propping his head up with one hand, looking at the indescribable monster with the expression of a curious child. "We've been fighting for ages, you must be tired. How about I tell you a joke to cheer you up? Once upon a time, there was a ghost who had many hands, but he went bankrupt trying to buy gloves, ha ha ha." "Shut up!" The Hand Demon finally lost its patience and lashed out with a massive arm like a whip, slamming it down on the blue stone with a whooshing sound. Boom! Gravel flew everywhere, and dust billowed up. However, the next second, the smoke cleared, and Kiyohiko was already squatting on the trunk of another tree. Although he had several cuts on his body, the wounds were emitting faint white smoke and healing rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye, without leaving any scars. "Oh dear, what a temper!" Kiyohiko dusted off his clothes, shrugged helplessly, and said, "I told you we're neighbors. A close neighbor is worse than a distant relative." Bite. Target character detected, Hand Demon, current bond value, -50. That's right, Kiyohiko is a transmigrator. He was originally a 20-year-old intern doctor who worked day and night and died suddenly, transmigrating here and becoming a little devil on Fujikasane Mountain. Aside from its exceptional regenerative abilities, it has no other notable strengths. Its combat power is even comparable to that of the Hand Demon, otherwise it wouldn't have fought for so long only to severely injure the Hand Demon and leave it stranded here. Fortunately, Kiyohiko also has a cheat code, the bond system. As long as he increases his bond and relationship with others, he can get all sorts of rewards. At first, Kiyohiko had no idea where he had been transported to, since he hadn't watched much of the Demon Slayer anime, let alone the movies. "What, you're asking how Kiyohiko knew he'd been transported to Demon Slayer if he hadn't watched it? Just like even if you've never watched Tokusatsu, when you see a giant of light over 50 meters tall with 2 salted eggs hanging on its head, you know it's Ultraman. Just like even if you haven't watched the anime, when you see a group of people shouting Tatataka, and rushing towards the outside of the wall, you know they are retreating dwarves. It's like even if you haven't read the comics, when you see a blonde guy smugly leading a girl into a hotel, you know it's N. Cough. I digress. Yesterday, Kiyohiko, who had just transmigrated, encountered his first demon, the legendary, resilient king, a must-see in Demon Slayer fanfiction, the Hand Demon. He then realized where he had transmigrated to. "Hey kid, what's the current era name?" Taisho era. And so they've been fighting ever since. Just then, a gust of wind blew through the forest. Suddenly, a strange scent wafted into the previously deathly still air. It was the scent of living people. And not just one, but many. A vibrant, pulsating scent, filled with fear and passion. The hand demon's massive body jolted violently, its eyes darting towards the foot of the mountain. Its body, which had been tense with rage, now trembled violently with excitement, and a greedy roar mixed with saliva rolled out from deep within its throat. They're here, hee hee hee, my little foxes. The hand demon's voice became sharp and distorted, the ecstatic joy of a predator catching the scent of its prey. Kiyohiko crouched on the tree trunk, his playful grin gradually fading. He narrowed his eyes slightly, gazing at the dark forest path in the distance. From there, he could faintly hear hurried footsteps and the scraping sound of a Nichiren blade being drawn from its sheath. The final selection has begun. So, Tanjiro is finally coming? Looks like your takeout has arrived, Hand Ghost Lord. Kiyohiko dusted himself off and stood up from the tree trunk. He knew he couldn't waste any more time with this multi-armed monster. His target was clear: Tanjiro Kamado. The rewards for forming bonds with the main characters in the original work are much richer, and given Tanjiro's personality as the protagonist, forming bonds with him would be quite easy. Hee hee hee, Tanjiro, don't run away, I'm coming to find you. Sorry, Tsurugi-kun, I know you're hungry, but the great security guard Kiyohiko won't let a takeout delivery into the compound. Just as he was about to turn and leave to sneak into the forest to find the red-haired boy, he heard the hand demon's deep, hoarse voice behind him. Hey, kid! The hand demon's massive body writhed in the shadows, its countless arms outstretched like sea anemones, revealing a hideous face hidden deep within. Its murky eyes were fixed on Kiyohiko, as if examining a rare tool. A new selection is coming, and those tender little devils are coming knocking on our door. The hand demon's voice held a hint of temptation. I can see it, you're different from ordinary demons, you don't have that person's curse on you. How about it? I'll give you all those people to devour, and you cooperate with me, and together we'll escape this damned wisteria cage, and go outside, to take revenge on that old BDU Rokadaki. Hand Ghost was clearly playing a clever game. Having been trapped here for 47 years, he was burning with a thirst for freedom and revenge. This incredibly regenerative and uncontrollable freak before him might be the key to breaking the deadlock. Sorry, Uncle Hand Ghost. Kiyohiko extended a finger and gently shook it. While your suggestion is very constructive, I decline. Why? You're a ghost too, don't you want to go out? Kiyohiko looked at the hand demon, pinched his nose, and said in a disdainful tone, as if he were picking at rotten cabbage at a market, why should I cooperate with you? Because you don't wash your hands before eating? Because you haven't brushed your teeth in 47 years? Because you're ugly? Don't say that to me again until you're financially independent from buying gloves. After saying that, Kiyohiko turned and left. His movements were fluid and without the slightest hesitation. Detected target character's hand ghost bond value has decreased, current bond value, -70. Upon hearing the system notification, Kiyohiko felt that he seemed better at lowering his bond level and becoming disliked by others than raising his bond level and building good relationships with them. Chapter 2. Having left the territory of the hand demon, Kiyohiko wandered through the dark forest. The hunger in his stomach was like a restless wild beast, scratching at his stomach lining from time to time, reminding him of his current physical condition. Kiyohiko was so eager to meet other people, and that's why he sought out Tanjiro. Kiyohiko's regenerative abilities seem unrelated to Muzan's blood, at least he can freely call out Muzan's name. The price, however, is that each regeneration intensifies his craving for humans and blood, and if not replenished in time, the regenerative effect gradually weakens. But upon arriving, he immediately fought the hand demon for a whole day, and Kiyohiko's entire body, except for his head, regenerated more than once. I just accidentally mentioned a year period, is it really necessary to get so angry? Just as he was complaining, a piercing scream tore through the night sky. Don't come any closer. I'll die. I'm really going to die. I'm not even married yet. I've never even held a girl's hand. Wah. I want to go home. Grandpa, help me. The sound was mournful, shrill, and carried a unique, noisy quality. Kiyohiko's eyes lit up instantly. The lines, the volume, the voice, who else could it be but that man? He parted the bushes and, sure enough, saw a boy wearing a yellow triangular patterned haori clinging tightly to a large tree, his face covered in snot and tears, frantically begging for mercy from an enemy that wasn't even in the air. Seeing Zenitsu's cowardly appearance, Kiyohiko's mischievous side suddenly stirred. He. Kiyohiko deliberately lowered his voice, letting out a low growl like a wild beast. He silently circled behind the tree, then suddenly poked his head out, his expression instantly transforming into a ferocious, grotesque face. He opened his mouth and shouted into Zenitsu's ear. Wow! Dinner's ready! Eeyeyeyeyey! Zenitsu's scream instantly rose 8 octaves, almost shattering Kiyohiko's eardrums. His eyes rolled back, his body convulsed violently as if electrified, and then he kicked his legs and fell straight backward. Thump! The world fell silent. Seeing Zenitsu foaming at the mouth and completely unconscious, Kiyohiko couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ha ha ha! This is too easily scared. Hey, wake up, yellow dandelion! Kiyohiko smiled and stepped forward, gently kicking Zenitsu's shin with his toe. Seeing that Zenitsu didn't react at all, his guard dropped to its lowest point. Tch, what a stupid idiot who's just asleep and lets everyone do whatever they want. Wait a minute. Kiyohiko's smile suddenly froze on his face. The floodgates of memory only belatedly opened at this moment. Asleep? Are we to be at their mercy? Wait. I seem to have forgotten something. This guy, he only gets stronger when he's asleep. An unprecedented chill instantly ran down his spine, and a sense of crisis even more terrifying than when facing the hand demon exploded within him. Zenitsu on the ground, his breathing changed. The previous rapid and chaotic breathing disappeared, replaced by a deep, focused, and rhythmic breathing sound, like thunder. Hiss hiss. It felt as if electricity was pulsating in the air. Lying down. Just as Kiyohiko was about to step back, the figure that had been lying on the ground had already disappeared. Thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap flash. A golden lightning bolt streaked across the dark forest, so fast that even the retina couldn't catch the afterimage. Immediately afterwards, a spray of warm liquid gushed out. Kiyohiko stood there blankly, his gaze suddenly shifting. He felt a chill on his neck, followed by a sharp burning pain. He instinctively raised his hand to touch it. The neck is half open. If he hadn't instinctively leaned back a centimeter earlier, his head would already be rolling on the ground and being kicked around like a ball. Cough, cough, cough. A large amount of blood gushed from the cut, staining his clothes red. But the next second, the terrifying regenerative ability belonging to the demon was forcibly triggered. Thick white smoke billowed from the wound, and granulation tissue writhed and intertwined, reconnecting the severed trachea, blood vessels, and muscles in just 2 seconds. The tingling and excruciating pain of flesh being reassembled almost made Kiyohiko kneel on the ground. Meanwhile, the culprit, Zenitsu, remained standing not far away, still in his sword-drawing stance, before collapsing to the ground, lying on his back with the snot bubble of varying sizes still hanging from his nose, fast asleep. FK your mother. Kiyohiko, rubbing his newly healed neck, pointed at the sleeping Zenitsu and launched into a tirade, completely disregarding any semblance of decorum. Are you out of your mind? I was just saying hello. Just kidding. And you went straight for the neck. The whole thing almost ended, you know that. Only I could pull this off. Anyone else would be dead by now. He jumped up and down in a fit of rage. The knife had not only injured his body but also depleted his already limited energy. The hunger in his stomach instantly doubled. Looking at the boy in front of him who exuded an enticing aroma, Kiyohiko's eyes uncontrollably reddened, and saliva dripped onto the grass. Bro, why do you suddenly smell so good? You're ruthless. Kiyohiko slapped himself hard, forcibly pulling his gaze away from Zenitsu's fair neck. I'll never scare mental patients again, it's so unlucky. Kiyohiko squatted down beside him, examining the familiar face in the moonlight. The lingering pain from his neck being cut was still nagging at him, making him grind his teeth involuntarily. You can't judge a book by its cover, she looks like a yellow dandelion. He reached out and gently patted the tear-streaked face. Hey, get up. The sun's already high in the sky. Pfft. The snot bubble popped. Zenitsu Agatsama's eyelids trembled violently a few times, then snapped open. The moment his previously unfocused eyes refocused, he saw Kiyohiko's face, pale in the moonlight and bearing an eerie smile. Hey, you're awake, you little blondie. Kiyohiko deliberately lowered his voice, a very kind smile spreading across his face, revealing two sharp canine teeth. How can I possibly thank you? Zenitsu froze instantly. Immediately afterwards, Zenitsu's pupils shrank to the size of pinpoints, his face turned from pale to ashen, a yellow dandelion bloomed, his mouth opened to an unbelievable angle, and a scream powerful enough to shatter mountains and rivers began to brew deep in his throat. Ghost, 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 ah! Just as that high note was about to burst from his throat, Zenitsu's eyes rolled back, his body stiffened again, and he looked like he was about to faint. Kiyohiko's smile vanished instantly. Holy crap! Bro! Don't faint! Please don't faint! Chapter 3. Holy crap! Don't faint! Please don't faint! Kiyohiko had just experienced the terror of the sleeping pillar, and if this guy fell asleep again, his newly healed neck would probably suffer again. Without a second thought, Kiyohiko suddenly reached out with both hands, grabbed Zenitsu's cheeks, and pulled them apart like dough. At the same time, he suppressed all his frightening expression and put on a helpless look of disappointment. Shut up! Don't faint! I won't eat you! I don't eat people! Do you understand? Zenitsu's face was contorted from being pinched, and tears streamed down his face, but at least the pain forcibly pulled him back to reality. He stared at Kiyohiko in terror, his whole body trembling like a leaf, tears streaming down his face. Wah-ah-ah! You lied! You clearly said dinner's ready! I heard you! You're going to eat me, right? You're going to start chewing me from my ears, right? I can't take it anymore. I'm going to die. Grandpa, I'm so sorry, I'm going to become ghost poop. Zenitsu was crying and muttering rapidly, his hands tightly protecting his head. Zenitsu Agatsama detected, current bond value, -10. I should have known better than to scare myself, it's another negative number. Kiyohiko let go of his hand, rolled his eyes, and plopped down on the grass opposite Zenitsu. He casually plucked a blade of grass and put it in his mouth, trying to suppress the churning hunger in his stomach caused by being near a living person. If I wanted to eat you, do you think you'd still be here with a runny nose? I was just kidding, understand? Kiyohiko is truly afraid of him now. Look, I didn't even lift a finger. And he pointed to the large, still wet bloodstain on his collar and complained irritably. And I was the one who got hurt just now. You're such a terrible sleeper, you were dreaming about chopping people up, you almost chopped my head off and used it as a ball. Who's the monster here? Zenitsu paused, sniffed, and cautiously peeked at Kiyohiko through his fingers. Although this guy definitely had demon teeth and a terrifying aura, he hadn't pounced on him, and was even complaining like an old man. Especially since, he's also quite handsome. You really won't eat me? Zenitsu's voice trembled, thick with the sound of sobbing. I won't eat. You're covered in tears and snot, it's disgusting to look at. Kiyohiko waved his hand dismissively, actually trying to hide the sound of him swallowing hard. Heaven knows how hard he was trying to hold back his hunger, he had just been slashed by Zenitsu, and now his hunger was rising again. My name is Kiyohiko. Although I'm a ghost, no, I'm a person. But you little blondie, what's your name? You're such a coward, yet you dare to participate in the selection? Do you have a death wish? Kiyohiko asked the question knowing the answer already, trying to steer the conversation in a normal direction. When Zenitsu heard the word cowardly, it seemed to strike a nerve, but more than anything, it fueled his desire to survive. He hunched his shoulders and slowly sat up, still maintaining a posture ready to flee at any moment. I'm Zenitsu Agatsuma, I didn't want to come here either. Grandpa beat me up and forced me to come. Wah, there are ghosts everywhere here, it's so scary, I want to go home. As he spoke, Zenitsu started to cry again. Kiyohiko sighed and rubbed his forehead. This guy was exactly the same as in the original work, truly noisy and truly cowardly. But seeing such a vivid character right in front of him, the real feeling of time travel made him feel a little better. If I help him pass the selection, our bond level will increase significantly, and his hearing is excellent, so he can help me find people. It's better than him wandering around aimlessly like a headless fly. However, Kiyohiko really couldn't understand how Zenitsu passed the selection in the original story. Did he sleep the whole way? Kiyohiko sighed, stood up, and patted the dirt off his backside. All right, stop howling. Since you're forced to do this, I'll reluctantly protect you for a while. Go on, staying here is more dangerous, the smell of blood will attract those who really want to eat you. But... Kinjian shook his finger. I have conditions, too. Since your hearing is so good, you have to help me find someone. Ears? How do you know my ears work? Cough. Kiyohiko coughed, and Zenitsu immediately stopped asking questions and just nodded. Kiyohiko patted Zenitsu's head, it felt nice, so he ruffled it again. Don't worry, it's not difficult. That person is easy to find. As for the distinguishing features, Kiyohiko remembered that Zenitsu didn't seem to know Tanjiro yet. He pondered for a while before finally arriving at what he considered a plausible answer. It's probably one of those guys whose voice sounds gentle, but who's actually incredibly stubborn, as hard as a rock. Have you heard that kind of voice? Hey? A really hard-headed voice. Zenitsu sniffed, giving him a "Are you kidding me" look. How can you tell if someone's head is hard or not just by listening to their voice? And there are crunching sounds everywhere, along with screams of help. It's terrifying. I want to go home. Shut up. Focus. Kiyohiko slapped Zenitsu on the back of the head. Block out all your messy fears, find that, sound vibrant, or like there's a battle going on. Hurry up, or I'll leave you here to be fed to the ghosts. Driven by the fear of being abandoned, Zenitsu was forced to activate high-precision radar mode. He closed his eyes, his ears twitching slightly, filtering out the sounds of the wind and leaves. Wah! There's a sound over there, it's very faint, it seems like it's about to disappear. Zenitsu pointed southeast, his finger still trembling. Disappearing quickly? Could it be that Tanjiro is in trouble? Kiyohiko's heart tightened. Although Tanjiro was very fierce in the original work, no one could predict the butterfly effect. He grabbed Zenitsu by the back of his collar and dragged him away like a chick. Let's go. Let's take a look. However, when they parted the bushes, they didn't see the red-haired boy. A student wearing the same style of kimono lay in a pool of blood, his body covered in scratches, clearly having just survived a fierce battle. Although the demon had vanished, this person was on his last breath. Kiyohiko's lips twitched as he looked at the completely unfamiliar face of the stranger. Is this the stubborn person you were talking about? I only said it was a fading sound. I didn't say it was that stubborn guy. Zenitsu, hiding behind a tree, poked half his head out and argued, besides, he's bleeding a lot. Is he really beyond saving? What should we do? As Zenitsu was talking, he started to cry again. Kiyohiko sighed. Since we're already here, we can't just watch people die. Kiyohiko strode over to the wounded man. He was still conscious. He saw a ghost approaching and tried in terror to grab his knife, but couldn't even move a finger. No. Don't come any closer. Shut up, save your energy. Kiyohiko crouched down, ignoring the fear in the other person's eyes, and gently placed his palm on the other person's bloodied and mangled chest. Chapter 4. The next second, a bizarre and shocking scene unfolded. The deep, bone-revealing claw mark on the wounded man's chest seemed to come alive, transforming into a dark red stream of light that rapidly climbed up Kinjian's arm before exploding open on his own chest, instantly staining his clothes crimson with blood. Meanwhile, the man's originally fatal wound healed at a visible speed, leaving only a shallow scar. Cough cough. Kiyohiko groaned, a tearing pain shooting through his chest. But he merely wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his cells surging wildly within him. In just 2 seconds, the horrific wound on his chest vanished in a puff of white steam, leaving his skin smooth and flawless. Is it all done? The passerby swordsman stared dumbfounded at his own chest, then at the blood-soaked yet unharmed ghost before him, his world-view shattered. Current target synergy value, 40. 40? That's a pretty fast upgrade. But there's no reward for non-main characters from the original story. Next time I encounter an injured random passerby, I definitely won't help them. I might end up in trouble myself if I can't find Tanjiro. Kiyohiko stood up and patted the blood off his hands. All right, you're not going to die. Hurry up and get out of here. Find somewhere to hide, or team up with others. Don't let me see you again, or I'll be charging you next time. The swordsman and Kiyohiko exchanged a glance. Although their hearts were filled with questions and fear, their survival instincts made them scramble and run in the opposite direction. Even after running quite a distance, you could still hear him whispering, was that a ghost? Did a ghost save me? Am I already dead and dreaming? This scene repeated itself 3 times over the next 2 hours. Zenitsu gives directions, discovers an injured passerby. Kiyohiko treats the injured person. Kiyohiko criticizes Zenitsu. Kiyohiko tells the passerby to leave. By a stream, Kiyohiko had just healed a hapless fellow whose leg had been broken. Watching the man limp away, he finally snapped. He turned around, grabbed Zenitsu's shoulders with both hands, and shook him violently. Zenitsu Agatsuma. Do you have some misunderstanding about stubborn? Hey! That one was bald. Is bald and stubborn the same thing? And the one before that, the one with the bandana, how did he look like Tanjiro? Zenitsu was shaken so badly that he foamed at the mouth and saw stars. Wah-ah-ah. But their heartbeats sound so similar. They both have that don't want to die sound. I've never heard the voice of the person you're looking for before, how would I know? Zenitsu burst into tears, feeling wronged. And you're such a weird ghost. You're a ghost, so why are you inflicting other people's injuries on yourself? It looks so painful. Even though you recovered in no time, are you really a ghost? Current target synergy value, 20. Although Zenitsu was still complaining, his relationship with Kiyohiko had improved considerably. Wah-ah-ah, this weird ghost always likes to scare me and bully me, but he seems like a good ghost, so why does he always help others? It looks so painful. Kiyohiko stopped shaking him, released his grip, and straightened his collar with a hint of helplessness. Although the frequent use of blood demon art had left him feeling somewhat exhausted, fortunately, none of the injuries he had suffered tonight were fatal, and his regeneration speed was more than sufficient. He also forcibly suppressed the urge to crave blood. God's my foot! I just didn't want to eat spoiled meat. Injured people's flesh turns sour, understand? He arrogantly offered an excuse. What Kiyohiko didn't know was that although he hadn't found Tanjiro, his actions had already created a chain reaction. Those he had saved were now probably gathering in various corners of the forest. Have you heard? There's a strange ghost in the forest. Yes, yes, yes. He wears strange clothes, is handsome, and can even heal injuries. I encountered that too, and they even said something weird like there would be a charge next time. At that moment, Kiyohiko glanced into the depths of the forest. The night breeze, which had been carrying the fragrance of wisteria and the earthy smell of soil, was suddenly tainted with a nauseating stench. It was the smell of meat rotting in a damp, dark cellar for months, mixed with years of blood grime. This smell, he knew it all too well. They're here. He murmured softly. Why is that hand demon moving so quickly? I haven't even found Tanjiro yet. Ugh! It stinks. What is that smell? It's like something's rotting. Zenitsu covered his nose, tears instantly welling up from the fumes. He grabbed Kiyohiko's sleeve in terror. It's a ghost, right? It's definitely a super scary ghost. We have to run away, right? Hey, we have to run in the opposite direction, right? Yasuki, let go. Kiyohiko's voice was deep and calm, devoid of his usual playful tone. Listen to me, find a thicket of bushes here and hide. Hold your breath and don't come out no matter what you hear. Stay until sunrise. Hey? What about you? Where are you going? Don't leave me behind. I'm going to settle a personal score. Kiyohiko didn't offer any further explanation. He abruptly shook off Zenitsu's hand, his leg muscles tensing, and a cloud of dust erupted beneath his feet. The next second, he transformed into a black shadow, like a cannonball, and charged wildly toward the source of the stench, the mountain of flesh made up of countless arms. The trees receded rapidly, and the stench grew stronger and stronger. When Kiyohiko emerged from a dense forest and arrived at an open area, he encountered his old acquaintance, Hand Demon. Opposite the Hand Demon, a boy wearing a fox mask and a cloud-patterned haori was gripping a sword, his body trembling slightly, seemingly intimidated by the enormous creature. Beside him lay two Demon Slayer Corps members, their fates unknown. This is Tanjiro. He, here we go again, my little fox. The Hand Demon let out a chilling laugh, and countless arms wriggled, reaching out to Tanjiro like snakes. Although my body still aches a bit, that damned BD really messed me up, I can still smell the scent of that old BD Urokodaka's disciple. Hey, long-armed monster, watch your mouth. A sudden voice interrupted the hand ghost's monologue. The demon's cloudy eyes suddenly darted around, staring intently at Kiyohiko, who emerged from the shadows of the woods. Tanjiro turned around in surprise, looking at the suddenly appearing demon. Your injuries haven't fully healed and you're already eating at a buffet? You're really ignoring the doctor's advice. Kiyohiko stood not far in front of Tanjiro, his hands in his pockets, looking like a hermit. He was initially worried that the butterfly effect would prevent him from encountering Tanjiro while staying by the Hand Demon's side. However, after searching for a long time without finding Tanjiro, the injured Hand Demon encountered him after only taking a few steps. Was this destiny? Chapter 5. It's you again. The Hand Demon's massive body trembled slightly, and its eyes narrowed. Its enormous nose twitched forcefully in the air, producing a whooshing sound like a broken bellows. Immediately afterwards, an extremely shrill, mocking, and malicious laugh erupted from its gaping mouth that stretched all the way to its ears. He 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 he. Ha 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 ha. The hand demon laughed so hard that its fat jiggled, and its arms flailed wildly in the air as if it had heard the funniest joke in the world. It lowered its head and looked down at Kiyohiko with an expression that suggested it was looking at an idiot or trash. I knew it, why has your aura become so weak? It's as pitifully fragile as a newly born low-level ghost. One of its arms suddenly stretched out, its fingertips almost poking Kiyohiko's nose, with bits of flesh and blood from an unknown victim still clinging to its fingernails. And you smell like those little mice. That's the smell of living people. That's the smell of the food you're supposed to be eating. You idiot, you didn't actually go and save someone, did you? Kiyohiko remained silent. Ugh, while saying that might improve one's image, the tone just doesn't sit right with me. Seeing Kiyohiko's silence, the demon laughed even more wildly, his voice sharp as fingernails scraping across a blackboard. Oh my god, this is hilarious. Do you think you're playing house? Do you really think you're human? Look at your hands, look at your teeth. You're a ghost. A man-eating monster. You've made yourself so weak just to save those food. Is your head filled with wisteria flowers? These words struck like a heavy hammer blow to the empty ground. Tanjiro, who was standing to the side, suddenly widened his eyes. Even on the battlefield where life and death hung in the balance, even when facing the enemy who had killed countless of his fellow disciples, Tanjiro's red eyes still revealed an incredulous shock. He looked at the figure blocking his way, a figure that clearly exuded the aura of a demon, yet had put himself in danger to protect others. To save people. Tanjiro's knuckles turned white as he gripped his Nichiren blade. This scene resonated deeply with his long-held beliefs. If there are brothers who fight to protect their sisters, if there is a Nezuko who doesn't eat people, then, it's not impossible for demons to fight to save others, is it? Current Tanjiro Kamado bond value, 45. With the help of the demon, Kiyohiko's bond level with Tanjiro skyrocketed without him saying a word. At this moment, Kiyohiko's smile was harder to suppress than an AK. As expected of Demon Slayer's little son, and as expected of the most charming male protagonist. I love you so much, Tanjiro. Hey, you long-armed monster, you talk too much nonsense. Whether I'm human or not is irrelevant, but someone like you, with only arms and no brains, who finds pleasure in eating people, is definitely a monster through and through. Kiyohiko suddenly spoke, his voice slightly hoarse, but his tone still had that smug, punchable quality. He looked up and gave the hand ghost the middle finger. He took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the surging hunger within him, and spoke again. Besides, even if I become weaker, it doesn't mean you become stronger, does it? Before he could finish speaking, the hand ghost's laughter abruptly ceased, replaced by an even more intense killing intent. Since you're so eager to die, then I'll grant your wish. I'll chew you and this little fox up and swallow them both, and I'll regain my peak strength. Boom! Dozens of arms, like battering rams, crashed down on the two of them with a whistling sound as they tore through the air. Faced with the overwhelming barrage of thick arms, Kiyohiko relied on his speed to dodge. Even when the occasional attacks injured him, he simply patted the wounds lightly. Ouch! 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 Kiyohiko was inwardly agonizing. So many arms, so many attacks, 70% of them aimed at me. What did this mean? You hate Urokodaki, you hate that fox mask, what does it have to do with me? Wow, that's amazing! Tanjiro looked at Kiyohiko and praised him. I can't fall behind. Water-breathing type 2 water wheel. Tanjiro's stern shout interrupted Kiyohiko's thoughts of cursing the hand demon's parents. The boy flipped in the air, creating a ripple of water as he severed several attacking arms. Well done! Kiyohiko shouted to encourage Tanjiro, while darting between tree trunks like a slippery eel to attract the hand demon's attention. Hey! Long-armed monster! Are you tickling me? Your aim is terrible. The hand demon was completely enraged. Its arms, which were originally attacking Kiyohiko, suddenly twisted strangely, intertwined and merged in mid-air, forming a huge human shield cage, instantly changing the trajectory of its attack. Die, you damned little bug! That was not just an attack, it was a blockade. Tanjiro had just landed, his old strength exhausted and new strength yet to arise. Before he could even catch his breath, he was horrified to find pale arms pressing down on him from all sides, like an iron wall. Damn it! I can't dodge it! Tanjiro's pupil shrank, and the aura of death rushed towards him. Kiyohiko, who was not far away, caught a glimpse of this scene out of the corner of his eye. Holy crap! This wasn't in the script. Wasn't the protagonist supposed to be invincible with his plot armor? How did this guy suddenly become so powerful? This doesn't make sense. Kiyohiko's heart skipped a beat. Reason told him that rushing in now would most likely result in them both being smashed to pieces, and with the protagonist's plot armor, Tanjiro would probably be unharmed. But what if Tanjiro died? Kiyohiko could not gamble with other people's lives under any circumstances. With a roar of grief and rage, Kiyohiko's leg muscles bulged, creating a deep crater in the ground. He didn't attack, but instead, like a cannonball, he crashed straight into the closing cage of arms. Pft! 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 The sickening sound of flesh being pierced rang out. In that critical moment, Kiyohiko stood in front of Tanjiro. 3 arms as thick as tree trunks pierced through his abdomen, left shoulder, and thigh, pinning him firmly in mid-air. Blood gushed out like a fountain, splattering Tanjiro's face behind him. A demon! Mr. Demon! Tanjiro stared blankly at the scene before him, his warm blood making him tremble all over. Cough cough, pft! Kiyohiko suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, his face contorted in pain. It hurts so much. This is definitely not cool at all. Kiyohiko couldn't understand why the story hadn't followed his script at all from the beginning. Chapter 6. Although he was internally screaming and crying, Kiyohiko still gripped the arm piercing his stomach tightly, his nails digging deep into the demon's flesh, preventing the hand demon from pulling back its arm for another attack. He turned around with difficulty, his face contorted in blood, but his eyes were unusually fierce as he roared at Tanjiro. What are you looking at? Haven't you ever seen a handsome guy bleed before? It can't move right now, chop off its head. Hurry up! In that instant, Tanjiro saw it. Amidst the pungent stench of blood, the momentary lapse in the demon's defenses revealed the opening the line of gap, forged by Kiyohiko's own life. The line is taut. Tanjiro's eyes instantly became incredibly clear, a focused gaze born from the elimination of all distractions. He gripped his Nichiren blade tightly, the ground beneath his feet cracked, and his body transformed into a streak of azure light, following that line along the base of Kiyohiko's nailed arm, soaring straight into the sky. Concentrated water breathing. The demon tried to pull its arm back in terror to defend itself, but Kiyohiko roared like a wild beast, ignoring the excruciating pain of its torn wound, and instead tightened its grip on its joint. The era name has changed again this year, UBD. First form water slash. The blade flashed, as calm and sharp as a still lake. In that instant, the hand demon's enormous head separated from its neck and flew into the sky. The last thing reflected in those malevolent eyes was the blood-soaked demon clinging to its arm, grinning wildly and uttering strange words. Wah-ah-ah-ah. He's dead. Is he really dead? That long-armed monster. A heart-wrenching scream shattered the post-battle silence. The bushes trembled, and Zenitsuo Agatsuma, with his blonde hair and snot streaming down his face, rushed out, tears streaming down his face. He had intended to run as far away as possible, but the image of that strange, good devil older brother rushing out to save people kept replaying in his mind, making his conscience ache terribly. In the end, he ran back, still crying. Kiyohiko nii. You have a hole in your body. Intestines. Is that intestines? Zenitsu screamed, covering his face, pointing at the horrifying wound on Kiyohiko's abdomen that was still slowly writhing, almost rolling his eyes in fright. Then, he turned his head sharply and saw Tanjiro supporting Kiyohiko. Ah! It's you. The one I met at the final selection entrance. Zenitsu pointed at Tanjiro, his face filled with shock. So it was you, the tough guy Kiyohiko was looking for? You're still alive. Tanjiro was puzzled by the nickname Iron-Headed Man, but now was clearly not the time to dwell on it. He looked anxiously at Kiyohiko in his arms. This isn't the time to talk about this, Mr. Demon, he. Shut up, it's so noisy. Kiyohiko muttered a weak curse, leaning against Tanjiro, feeling his vision blurring. It wasn't from blood loss, but from hunger. Extreme hunger. The smell of ashes after the hand demon dissipated, the strong scent of blood on Tanjiro's body, and those two unlucky guys lying on the ground not far away. The two examinees had probably been swatted away by the hand demon, their sternums had caved in, they were barely breathing, and their blood stained the grass. In Kiyohiko's eyes, that bright red color was more alluring than any gemstone at that moment, and 1,000 times sweeter than the finest A5 Wagyu beef. Gulp. Kiyohiko clearly heard himself swallow. Every cell in his body was screaming, eat them. While they're hot. Just one bite, and the wounds will heal. The strength will return. No. I can't eat it. If I eat it, I really can't go back. Kiyohiko bit his tongue hard, the sharp pain bringing him back to his senses. They're dying, we have to hurry. Kiyohiko was caught in a dilemma. He wasn't sure if he could remain conscious if he saved them, given his dire condition. But as a medical student, his upbringing wouldn't allow him to stand by and watch someone die. Think about it, if I were to endure my hunger now and instead save these two people who are destined to die, that kind of saintly, no, that kind of compassionate and radiant image, in contrast to the demons, would definitely elevate the bond between myself and Tanjiro and the others to a new level. Yes, that's right. Saving those two random passers-by was just a side effect. And so, Kiyohiko convinced himself. He approached the wounded man, the stench of blood so intense it felt like his head was being shoved into a spicy hot pot. His pupils instantly contracted to pinpoints, his fingernails grew uncontrollably, and a low growl, like a wild animal guarding its prey, escaped his throat. Ugh! Mr. Demon! Tanjiro keenly sensed something was wrong. Kiyohiko's aura was even more dangerous than when he faced the hand demon earlier. Zenitsu was so terrified that he hid behind a tree, his teeth chattering. His voice has changed. It's the voice of someone who wants to eat people. I've heard it. I've definitely heard it. Kiyohiko shoved Tanjiro away abruptly, digging his hands into the soil to forcefully suppress the urge to pounce and bite. He looked up, his eyes bloodshot, half reflecting human reason and half demonic madness. Listen! Tanjiro, and Zenitsu. His voice was so hoarse it sounded like he was chewing sand, and every word seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. I must save them, use my blood demon magic, transfer their wounds to me. What? But your wound is already... Tanjiro stared in shock at the large, slowly healing hole in Kiyohiko's abdomen. Enough nonsense! Kiyohiko roared, interrupting Tanjiro. He took a deep breath, his eyes suddenly becoming incredibly sharp as he stared intently at the Nichiren blade in Tanjiro's hand. After saving them, I'll become even hungrier, and might completely lose my mind. If... Kiyohiko reached out a trembling hand and placed it on the chest of a dying examinee, while turning his head to look at Tanjiro with a resolute gaze. If I really turned into a man-eating monster, if I pointed my teeth at you. Tanjiro. Don't hesitate. Aim for my neck, and cut it down. Grandpa Kiyohiko died suddenly while saving lives as a doctor before he transmigrated. If he were to die while saving lives again after transmigrating, that would be too shameful. Kinjian no longer hesitated, and a dark red light burst forth from his palm. The examinee's sternum recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye, while at the same time, Kiyohiko's chest suddenly collapsed, as if struck by an invisible hammer. As the dark red light in his palm dissipated, the last examinee's breathing stabilized, he remained unconscious. Tanjiro wanted to approach Kiyohiko to check on his condition, but he quickly stopped. At this moment, Kiyohiko's once clear black and white eyes had turned completely scarlet, with pupils as straight as needles. His fangs bulged uncontrollably, and saliva mixed with blood dripped from the corners of his mouth, making a sizzling sound as it fell onto the grass. Chapter 7. Mr. Demon. Tanjiro gripped his Nichiren blade tightly, the tip trembling slightly. He smelled it, that pure, beastly appetite. Tanjiro. Kiyohiko managed to squeeze out those words. He originally wanted to tell Tanjiro to knock him unconscious while he still could, and then slowly recover over time. But before Kiyohiko could finish speaking, he heard hurried footsteps and Tanjiro's apologetic shout. "I'm sorry. But I can't cut you." "What? That's not what I was going to say." Immediately afterwards, Kiyohiko felt a rapidly enlarging, smooth, and incredibly hard forehead appear in his field of vision. Thump! A deep, resounding clang, like the striking of a temple bell, echoed through the forest. Time seemed to stand still at that moment. Kiyohiko felt as if his brain had been hit head-on by a speeding Shinkansen train. That wasn't pain, it was an out-of-body experience. His eyes nearly popped out, his fangs bit his tongue, and his head snapped back, his body arcing through the air in a graceful parabola. Why? In the final 0.01 seconds before his consciousness was severed, a flicker of confusion crossed Kiyohiko's already muddled brain. "That's not what I meant. The script, wait a minute." Thump! Kiyohiko crashed heavily to the ground, his eyes rolled back, his tongue lolling out, completely unconscious. The terrifying murderous aura and appetite vanished instantly with the loss of consciousness. Tanjiro clutched his swollen forehead, tears streaming down his face from the pain, and crouched on the ground, panting, it hurts so much, the demon's skull is definitely harder than stone." Zenitsu, who was hiding behind the tree, slowly peeked out. He looked at Kiyohiko lying dead on the ground, then at Tanjiro who was covering his forehead, and his jaw almost dropped to the ground. He heard that loud bang clearly. It was the sound of bones colliding, and it sounded like Tanjiro's bones had won. "You." Zenitsu pointed at Tanjiro, his voice trembling, his expression shifting from terror to awe. You really are an iron-headed man. You actually knocked a demon unconscious with your head. What's in your head? Is it made of steel?" Tanjiro rubbed his forehead, explaining earnestly, "Because Mr. Demon became like this to save someone. I can't kill him. Mr. Ghost must have been trying to tell me to kill him. He's truly great, and I don't want him to die. If I can make him lose consciousness, he should calm down." He walked to the unconscious Kiyohiko's side, looked at this strange ghost who had gotten himself into such a mess for a stranger, sighed softly, tore a piece of cloth from his haori, and carefully stuffed it into Kiyohiko's mouth to make a gag, to prevent him from biting people when he woke up. "Zenitsu, come help. The sun's about to rise, we need to hide him in the shadows." "Hey! Do I have to move too? He'll eat me when he wakes up, right? He'll definitely eat me first when I'm tender and juicy." Zenitsu protested, but his body betrayed him as he ran over, sniffling as he prepared to lift Kiyohiko's foot. "Hey! Tanjiro, has he shrunk?" Zenitsu suddenly pointed at Kiyohiko and said. Kiyohiko, who was originally of normal build, was now exhausted and extremely hungry, causing his body to instinctively activate its self-preservation mechanism. His body shrank to the size of an 8 or 9-year-old child, curled up on the ground like a sleeping porcelain doll. The clothes that were too big for him hung loosely over him, revealing only a tuft of black hair and a pale little hand. Tanjiro's eyes were gentle yet firm. That'll make things easier, Zenitsu. Let's make a wooden box and carry him with us. The demon is too weak right now, we can't leave him here. It's obvious he's mistaking Kiyohiko for Nezuko. But, we're taking a demon to the finish line. We'll get killed. We'll definitely get our heads chopped off by the pillars. Zenitsu muttered to himself in frustration, but he still turned around and prepared to find a suitable tree. System notification, Tanjiro's bond level has increased. Current level, LV.2. Rewards, body strength increased by 30%, head strength increased by 50%. Reward, slight increase in all attributes. System notification, Zenitsu's bond level has increased. Current level, LV.2. Reward, speed increased by 40%. Reward, slight increase in all attributes. As the system announced this, Kiyohiko's body began to change silently, though Kiyohiko was unaware of it at the moment. Just then, a rustling sound came from the bushes ahead. Who? Tanjiro instantly became alert, his hand resting on the hilt of his Nichiren blade. Zenitsu immediately hid behind Tanjiro, the sound of his teeth chattering clearly audible. That is. The young swordsman's eyes widened as he pointed at Kiyohiko's partially exposed profile. That ghost. Tanjiro's heart tightened, and he instinctively turned to shield the person on his back. Please don't misunderstand. He may be a demon, but he doesn't eat people. That's him. The young swordsman suddenly interrupted Tanjiro, his eyes instantly reddening. He rushed forward and, under Tanjiro's wary gaze, bowed deeply. It really was him. I recognize this outfit. Last night, I was attacked by 2 alien ghosts. Although I killed them, I almost died there too. He suddenly rushed out and absorbed my wounds. As he spoke, he looked at Zenitsu again. Oh, and you too, you blonde guy who follows the ghost around with snot and tears streaming down your face, you're here too. Hey! Who are you talking about? Zenitsu jumped up in anger. The boy trembled as he touched his perfectly healed chest, his voice choked with emotion. I saw he was in a lot of pain, and I was so scared that I ran away. I regret it so much, I thought he was dead. Tanjiro was stunned, then gave a relieved smile. He's not dead, he's just too tired. I saw it too. Another voice came from behind the tree. A female swordsman with scars on her face emerged, leaning against the tree trunk, followed by 2 wounded men supporting each other. My eyes! I was almost blind. The female swordsman pointed to her clear eyes. He pressed his hand on my eyes, and then his eyes started bleeding. Who would believe a ghost did something like that if they hadn't experienced it themselves? You're going to the finish line, right? I'll go with you. The young swordsman who had started first drew his Nyx sword and stood to Tanjiro's left. The demon slayer core might kill him. I'm willing to vouch for him, but I'm afraid I alone won't be enough. Count me in. The female swordsman stepped to the right. Although I don't know if I'll pass the selection, it would be unworthy of a swordsman to be ungrateful. Chapter 8. After passing through the last dark grove of trees, the view suddenly opened up. The morning sunlight streamed through the cascading branches of the wisteria, filling the air with a dizzyingly rich fragrance. This place was forbidden to ghosts, but also a gateway to life for humans. As Tanjiro and his group stepped into the sea of wisteria blossoms, the Yubayashiki twins, the black-haired Teruya Yubayashiki and the white-haired Kanata Yubayashiki who had been waiting there, turned around expressionlessly. The moment Tanjiro stepped onto the stone steps, the previously calm twins suddenly frowned, their gazes like 2 cold, sharp blades, instantly locking onto Tanjiro's back. Welcome back, everyone. Congratulations to everyone for successfully passing the final selection. The two spoke in unison in flat, childlike voices, but the next second, their tone abruptly changed. But, please stop, you red-haired swordsman. This is Fujikasane Mountain, unclean things are forbidden to enter. Behead the demon on your back, or throw it back into the mountains, that's the rule. This statement was like a boulder thrown into a calm lake. Even if it's a joke, don't be so mean. A fierce-looking boy with a rooster-like hairstyle Jinya Shinazugawa stormed forward, pushing through the crowd. He stared intently at the simple wooden box on Tanjiro's back, tightly wrapped in strips of cloth. His nose twitched. Ah, it definitely smells like a demon. Hey, are you crazy? Bringing your prey here. As he spoke, his rough, large hand was already on the hilt of the knife, his eyes revealing a murderous intent. Meanwhile, Kaneo Tsuyuri on the other side also turned her head and stared straight at Tanjiro, seemingly lost in thought. The atmosphere instantly plummeted to freezing point. I won't let go. Tanjiro suddenly raised his head, his hands gripping the person on his back tightly, his eyes burning with an unprecedented stubbornness. He's not prey. He's a savior. Without him, at least half of these people wouldn't be here today. A ghost saving a person? Unheard of. The Yubayashiki twins remained indifferent. Rules are rules. The Demon Slayer Corps' duty is to slay demons. If you persist in your wrongdoing, you will lose your eligibility to join and be considered a traitor who aids demons. Then kill me too. A roar broke the deadlock. The young swordsman with the broken leg stepped forward and blocked Tanjiro's path. He healed my leg. If he's a demon, then what am I, saved by a demon? A demon's lackey. And me too. The female swordsman silently stepped forward as well. These eyes were given to me by him, I can't let him die like this. Although I'm terrified of dying, but... Zenitsu, his face contorted with grief and trembling, stood firmly behind Tanjiro, facing Shinazugawa Jinya, and said, if such a young child is killed, Grandpa will spank me until my bottom is raw. Absolutely. 1, 2, 3. The group of swordsmen who had been healed by Kiyohiko stood with their backs to Tanjiro, forming a circular ironclad formation, protecting the unconscious Kiyohiko in the very center. System notification, bond event complete. Event, final selection, sharing life and death. Reward settlement. Slight increase in all attributes. Swordsman basic mastery. Passive eater, can alleviate the side effects of regeneration by eating food. Kiyohiko never imagined that all those he had saved before would now stand on his side, just like Tanjiro and Zenitsu, and protect him with their lives. They are also flesh and blood people with their own thoughts. Jinya Shinazugawa froze, his hand gripping the sword hanging in mid-air. He cursed, "Hey? Have all these people gone mad?" Not far away, Kaneo Tsuyuri, the girl who had been silently playing with a coin, also stopped what she was doing, and for the first time, a ripple of confusion flashed in her empty purple eyes. The Yubayashiki twins exchanged a glance. Such a situation of collective disobedience has never occurred in the hundreds of years of the Demon Slayer Corps' history. A crack finally appeared on their doll-like, exquisite faces. The situation is abnormal. Unable to make a decision. The black-haired child raised her hand, and a black raven fluttered its wings and landed on her arm. Immediately send a message to our Lord. An anomaly has appeared at the end of the Tengzi Mountain expedition. Several qualified participants have risked their lives to protect it. Please make a decision, my lord. The raven cawed twice, seemingly frightened by the eerie atmosphere, then flapped its wings and soared into the sky. Yubayashiki residence. Sunlight filtered through layers of leaves, falling on a blind young man. His forehead bore marks that seemed to be edged by a curse, yet his expression was calmer and gentler than the waters of a spring lake. Kaguya Yubayashiki gently raised his hand, letting the long-traveled raven land on his fingertip. Really, all 12 children survived. His voice was as gentle as a breeze soothing a wound, and the corners of his mouth turned up slightly, revealing a heartfelt smile of relief. In previous years, it was considered extremely fortunate if 2 or 3 people survived, but this year there are 12, cough cough. He coughed lightly twice, and the white-haired child beside him quickly patted his back. And there's also a ghost that saves people. Kaguya's blind eyes seemed to pierce through the void, glimpsing an unknown possibility. Those children, to protect him, they were such gentle and strong children. Since the children are willing to do this, this demon must possess a humanity we don't yet know about. Don't harm him yet, take him to Shinobu. Perhaps Shinobu might be interested in him. I hope he can wake up safely. Chapter 9. Consciousness is like a bubble that sinks into the deep sea and then slowly rises back to the surface. The first thing to recover is the sense of smell. It still had that suffocatingly strong stench of wisteria blossoms, but within that stench was a complex mix of notes: alcohol, herbs, and an incredibly foul odor from the wisteria flowers. Kiyohiko let out a dry groan and struggled to open his heavy eyelids. What came into view was an unfamiliar white ceiling. He instinctively tried to raise his hand to rub his eyes, but found that his arm wouldn't move. Startled, he tried to struggle, only to find himself lying in a spread eagle position on a single bed. His wrists, ankles, and waist were firmly secured to the bed frame with specially made thick leather straps. My body feels so heavy. His injuries have now healed, and his size has returned to normal, but the deep-seated hunger still burns in his stomach like wildfire. I'm so hungry. I want to eat. I want to drink blood. It's not just an almost instinctive craving for people and blood. Kiyohiko was really hungry. He wanted to eat a whole bowl of even the herbs he disliked the most, like Houtunia cordata and cilantro. My body. Kiyohiko keenly noticed the changes in his body, checked the system, and then learned about the specific rewards he had received. Thank goodness, I didn't die. Kiyohiko breathed a sigh of relief, lay down on the bed, and leaned back a little to make himself more comfortable. But where am I now? Kiyohiko observed his surroundings. The room was dimly lit, with heavy curtains drawn tightly, and even the cracks in the door were plugged, clearly to prevent sunlight from entering. Oh, you're finally awake. A light, almost ethereal voice rang in my ears. Kiyohiko turned his head sharply and saw a girl standing by the door. She wore a haori with strange patterns resembling butterfly wings, and her black hair was adorned with a deep purple butterfly hair ornament. At this moment, she was resting her chin on her hands, her pale purple eyes curved into crescent shapes, smiling as she looked down at him. Shinobu Kocho? System prompt. Target character detected, Shinobu Kocho, current bond level, -25. Kiyohiko. Tanjiro, where did you send me? Look at this bond value, it's second only to the hand demon. The key is that when Kiyohiko first met the hand demon, his bond value with him was still 5, which was at least a positive number. It was only because of some unexpected circumstances that it dropped to -50. How come this woman's bond value is negative the moment we meet? I wonder if I'll end up as a specimen, a guinea pig. In his previous life, Kiyohiko had only watched half of the first season of Demon Slayer. He hadn't seen any of the other movies. He learned about most of them by watching videos of people shaking their hands and watching some couple videos. For example, regarding Shinobu Kocho in front of him, he had only seen her appearance at Spider Mountain and that famous Moshi Moshi scene. That video was so popular in 2020 that it was impossible not to know about it. He slept for 2 days and 2 nights, what a sleepyhead. Shinobu interrupted Kiyohiko's thoughts, walked to the bedside, and gently poked Kiyohiko's cheek with a finger. Her fingertip was cool, carrying a faint medicinal fragrance, but also subtly exuding the toxic scent of wisteria flowers that even demons loathe. Let me introduce myself. I'm Shinobu Kocho, and this is the Butterfly Mansion, the place where injured team members are treated. Her smile remained flawless, but a scrutinizing glint appeared in her eyes. I'm so sorry to have tied you up. But my lord said he'd spare your life for observation, yet I'm just a weak girl. If you suddenly attack and bite, I'll be in real trouble. I heard you saved a lot of people? You even got yourself into rags while saving people. That red-haired boy, his name is Tanjiro, right? He stayed by your side for a whole day and night, only tending to his own injuries after making sure you were out of danger. Shinobu Kocho spoke, her smile becoming slightly more genuine, and then there's that loud, boisterous blonde boy. The first thing he asked when he woke up was, that demon wasn't killed, was he? You demon, you're quite something, aren't you? Shinobu leaned closer, her delicate face only centimeters away from Kiyohiko's. He could even see her long eyelashes. Why would you do this? Aren't ghosts supposed to love eating people? Right now, you probably want to eat me too, right? However, to Shinobu's surprise, the expected beastly behavior of the demon did not occur, and the demon in front of her did not even show any expression of desire. Kiyohiko's face turned ashen on the bed, his features contorted in pain. He desperately burrowed his head into the pillow, holding his breath until his cheeks flushed red, as if the beautiful insect pillar before him were some kind of terrifying monster. Shinobu Kocho was slightly taken aback. Was this restraint? It seemed this demon was more rational than she had imagined. So she decided to increase the dosage. She reached out her other hand and gently lifted Kiyohiko's chin, forcing him to look directly at her, and the scent of wisteria blossoms filled Kiyohiko's nostrils even more intensely. Kiyohiko finally couldn't hold it in any longer. He took a deep breath, and his face instantly turned ashen, as if he had swallowed a dead fly. Cough cough. Kiyohiko's eyes darted away, avoiding Ren's gaze. His tone was filled with an awkwardness he couldn't bring himself to say, and a hint of apology. It might be a little impolite to say this, but, could you please not stand so close? Shinobu blinked, her fingers still lifting his chin, and tilted her head slightly. Oh? Are you afraid of hurting me? What a gentle devil! No. Kiyohiko took a deep breath, then nearly fainted from the fumes. He had no choice but to steel himself and speak in a very sincere, honest tone, as if stating an objective truth. It's because, it smells a bit. Shinobu Kocho. Shinobu Kocho, current bond value, -30. The air suddenly became quiet. Shinobu Kocho's signature, flawless smile visibly froze on her face at that moment, like a fine mask cracking open. Kiyohiko also had unspeakable grievances in his heart. He was already extremely sensitive to wisteria blossoms, what smelled sweet and delicate to most people, he found repulsive, almost like the stench of canned herring. But this woman's stench was inexplicably strong, even overpowering his thirst for blood. Did she grow up eating wisteria blossoms? Shinobu slowly stood up, casting a shadow on Kiyohiko. Saying a girl smells bad means you're disgusted with me? Smelly. She repeated the word, her voice still soft, but the temperature around her seemed to drop 10 degrees instantly. Yeah, it's like the taste of something that's been pickled in a jar of rotten wisteria blossoms for 10 years. Seeing Shinobu's increasingly dark face, Kiyohiko's survival instincts kicked in, and he tried to explain, but the more he tried, the worse it got. I'm really embarrassed to say this, but I'm about to throw up. Really, did you fall into a pile of wisteria blossoms and get pickled? Should we open a window to let some fresh air in? Shinobu Kocho slowly withdrew her hand. She stood up straight, her back to the sun, her face shrouded in shadow. As an 18-year-old girl, even as a pillar, even though she fights disgusting demons every day, she pays great attention to personal hygiene and appearance. This was the first time in her life that a man had told her to her face that she smelled bad. Hee hee, hee 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 hee. Shinobu Kocho let out a string of silvery laughter, but the laughter sent chills down Kiyohiko's spine. Butterfly suppressed a laugh, and a Nichiren blade appeared in her hand without her noticing. The scabbard of the Nichiren blade tapped rhythmically on the edge of the bed. I was wrong, really, let's put the knife down. No. Chapter 10. Cold sweat trickled down Kiyohiko's forehead, dripping onto the white pillow and leaving a small, dark stain. The girl in front of me was smiling radiantly, but the sense of rejection that emanated from her very bones was so strong that even the air seemed to freeze. Okay, it seems he messed something up. However, there was still one thing that Kiyohiko didn't understand. Kiyohiko's Adam's apple bobbed as he forced a smile that looked relaxed but was actually stiff. Miss Shinobu, we've never met before, have we? His voice was hoarse from thirst, and his eyes were filled with genuine confusion. Even though I'm a ghost, I feel like you have some personal grudge against me? I don't think I've offended you, at least I don't think I've ever offended you before, right? Oh dear, what a slow learner. With a slight twist of her wrist, the slender Nichiren blade drew an elegant arc in the air. The Demon Slayer Corps hates demons, isn't that obvious? Just like people hate cockroaches and rats. Ren's voice was soft and sweet, as if she were telling a child a bedtime story, but the words she uttered were extremely vicious. You eat people, kill people, and destroy families. To us, the very existence of each ghost is a sin. And yet, despite having a cannibalistic urge flowing through your veins, you still pretend to be a victim, asking me why I hate you. Ghosts really are born liars. Gilu. Just as the tension was at its peak and the atmosphere was extremely heavy, a loud and long rumbling sound suddenly echoed throughout the ward. Kiyohiko's stomach, quite uncooperatively, began to protest at this very moment. That. He looked awkwardly at Shinobu, who was so close to him, his eyes darting around. Even though you say I'm a liar, my stomach doesn't seem to lie. Miss Shinobu, could you give me something to eat first? I'm not picky, duck blood soup or anything like that is fine. The coldness in Shinobu's eyes froze for a moment before she sheathed her Nichiren blade and straightened up. Duck blood and vermicelli soup. She repeated the unfamiliar word, a playful smile creeping across her lips. There's no such thing here. However, since the Lord says he wants to observe you, I can't let you starve to death like this. She turned and walked towards the door, her back still slender and elegant, but before closing the door, she turned her head and left behind a light, airy sentence. Don't try anything funny. If you bear even one fang, my poison will instantly cause your body to fester and you'll die. Got it, Mr. Kid. Kiyohiko only stopped his comical and awkward smile after he confirmed that Shinobu had left and that he was alone in the room. Tisk. This woman is really strange. In his previous life, Kiyohiko didn't notice it when watching anime, but now that he's actually met her, he realizes that her smile is incredibly fake. Moreover, it's not a fake that's immediately obvious, it's a perfect fake, so perfect it's like wearing a semi-permanent mask, as if trying to hide the real face forever beneath it. Kiyohiko closed his eyes and pondered. Kiyohiko tried to understand. Kiyohiko decided to give up. Damn, if I'd known I was going to time travel, I would have watched those movies and anime a dozen times before coming here. Let's think about how to increase the bond value, at least to avoid increasing it in the opposite direction. After a while, the door was pushed open again. There was no duck blood vermicelli soup, only 2 rice balls that weren't quite round, and a cup of tea with an eerie purple hue. Shinobu Kocho walked to the bedside, extended her slender fingers, and unbuckled the belt that bound Kiyohiko's right hand. That's all. Eat it. Don't try to do anything else with that hand, unless you want to experience what it feels like to dislocate your wrist. Kiyohiko felt like he had been granted a pardon and grabbed a rice ball, stuffing it into his mouth. However, the moment the rice ball entered his mouth, his expression twisted. For him now, the rice had no aroma, the seaweed tasted like plastic wrap, and the dried plums inside were practically dried out stones. The whole texture was like chewing on a lump of old wax mixed with sawdust. It tastes awful. It tasted so bad I wanted to cry. However, he did feel that his longing for people had diminished a little. Kiyohiko chewed mechanically with his cheeks puffed out like a hamster, while cautiously glancing up at Shinobu sitting on the chair by the bed. She sat very upright, her hands folded on her knees. She was smiling, her lips curving upwards at a 15-degree angle, her eyes crinkling. Everything was so beautiful and gentle, well, if you don't consider the Nichiren blade she kept fiddling with in her hand. Miss Shinobu. Kiyohiko swallowed a mouthful of sawdust rice ball with difficulty, and cautiously asked, I know I shouldn't ask, but, are you in a bad mood? Ren's eyebrows twitched very slightly, but his smile remained unchanged. Oh dear? Why do you say that? Don't I look like I'm smiling? I'm laughing. Kiyohiko shrank back, pointed to his own eyes, then to her face, but there's absolutely no smile in your eyes. And it feels, like you're angry? Very, very angry. He paused, then added. If you really dislike me, just say so. You don't need to force a smile, it's creepy, really, I feel like you're going to throw that cup of purple tea in my face any second. Shinobu Kocho slowly stood up, a tiny, almost invisible well-shaped mark appearing on her forehead. Your intuition is annoyingly sharp. Her voice was as light as a feather, yet as cold as ice. Since you know I'm angry, shut up and drink this tea. It's a special wisteria flower tea, it won't kill you, but it'll keep this noisy brat quiet all day. After saying that, she picked up the cup of purple tea and held it directly to Kinjian's lips, her smile as radiant as a blooming spider lily. Come on, open your mouth. Miss Shinobu, let's talk this out. He tilted his head slightly, trying to move the female Yama with sincere eyes. Will drinking this affect my value as an observation subject? Look, this is poison, isn't it? It's all right, I'm a pharmacology expert, and my dosage control is perfect. Wait. I think it's better to. Good boy, open your mouth. A few minutes later, Kiyohiko lay sprawled on the hospital bed like a salted fish that had lost its dreams. His tongue was crooked to one side, his eyes rolled back, and a hoarse sound, like an old bellows being pulled, came from his throat, as if he were about to pass away at any moment. Chapter 11. Shinobu sat on the edge of the bed, arms crossed, her pale purple eyes quietly watching the mischievous boy in front of her. 1 second. 2 seconds. 10 seconds. Kiyohiko's body suddenly convulsed violently, then his finger trembled as he pointed to the ceiling, groaning in a weak, almost imperceptible voice, as if from the edge of hell. Grandma! I saw Grandma! She was waving at me from the other side of the river. She was holding a bowl of duck blood and vermicelli soup. It smelled so good. Pfft! A very soft sound rang out in the quiet room. Shinobu Kocho quickly raised her hand and used the wide sleeves of her haori to cover the lower half of her face. The fake smile that was once as perfect as a mask cracked slightly in that instant, and the curved lines of her eyebrows and eyes became vivid and real. Stop acting! Although she was trying her best to suppress it, there was still a hint of laughter and helplessness in her voice. That's just ordinary wisteria flower extract, the concentration adjusted. For a ghost, at most it would only feel tongue numbness and slight muscle soreness, it wouldn't be fatal, and it certainly wouldn't let you see anything like that. Upon hearing this, Kiyohiko, who had been on his deathbed, instantly straightened his eyes. As if nothing had happened, he deftly retracted his protruding tongue and even wiped his drool on the pillow. Oh, so it's anesthesia. Kiyohiko blinked, looking at Shinobu with an innocent expression. I thought it was some kind of smiling half-step madness, it scared me to death. Miss Shinobu, please don't make jokes like that next time. I have a heart condition, and I'm easily frightened. Shinobu lowered the sleeve covering her mouth. Although she quickly regained her dignified demeanor, a hint of tenderness appeared in her eyes. She looked at Kiyohiko with a probing gaze, as if she were looking at some strange creature she had never seen before. You're really strange. She spoke softly, her tone no longer as aggressive as before. He's clearly a ghost, yet he did that kind of thing in a place like Fujikasane. A ghost, in a hunting ground teeming with food, not only didn't eat, but instead expended its own energy to heal its prey. In the end, it almost perished itself while helping its prey kill its own kind. She leaned down, her purple eyes fixed intently on Kinjian's, as if trying to see into his soul. Kiyohiko slowly sat up straight, his carefree, playful smile disappearing from his face. His eyes became clear and calm, a reassuring gaze, a stark contrast to his earlier comical demeanor. Miss Shinobu, do you believe in instinct? Kiyohiko's voice was calm, without the previous hoarseness and quirkiness. When I was at Fujikasane, I heard screams. I saw those young children lying in pools of blood, their lives slipping away, their eyes filled with a desperate desire to live and a deep fear. I know I'm hungry, and I know it's dangerous for me. But I always find all sorts of reasons to convince myself, even if those reasons are completely untenable. Believe it or not, watching vibrant lives turn into cold corpses before my eyes is unbearable. I wasn't thinking about grand principles, nor did I want to be a hero. I just didn't want them to die. It's like if someone falls down in front of you, you instinctively reach out to help them up. That's how it should be for me. Of course. Kiyohiko chuckled self-deprecatingly, pointing to the two sharp canines in his mouth. There seems to be another, completely opposite instinct within this body, I don't deny that. I think that's why you hate me so much. But you have to believe me, since I became conscious, I have truly never hurt anyone. Shinobu's pupils contracted slightly. Of course, I believe you. I also believe that one day, humans and ghosts will be able to coexist peacefully. Kiyohiko glanced at the bond value, A&D. It was still negative. I almost believed it. As for why you didn't resist just now, Kiyohiko began, steer the conversation back on track, tacitly avoiding the topic of humans and ghosts. Kiyohiko's gaze softened as he looked at Shinobu Kocho, his tone carrying a hint of helpless indulgence. Because you're a doctor. Hey! Shinobu Kocho was taken aback, clearly not expecting this answer. If a doctor prescribes medicine, then as the patient, I can only follow their orders, even if the medicine tastes awful and seems to carry a malicious intent towards me. Kiyohiko shrugged, then his expression turned serious. And I know you're angry. You smell strongly of anger, it's hatred for ghosts. If drinking this tea can calm you down a bit, believe me, and make you feel a little safer, then go ahead and drink it. After all, like you said, it won't kill you. I know you're a good person, Miss Shinobu, and I don't want to hurt you. It doesn't need any complicated reasons. After saying this, Kinjian slumped back onto the bed, reverting to his usual lazy demeanor. Oh dear, I can't take it anymore, the numbness is kicking in, and my tongue is about to get tied in knots again. Miss Shinobu, since we've had the tea and talked, could you please give me 2 more rice balls? Those 2 weren't even enough to fill a tooth gap, even the sawdust flavor would have been fine. Shinobu Kocho bond value, -10. I finally got promoted. As expected, my emotional intelligence is still quite good. All those previous setbacks were unexpected and almost made me lose confidence. Upon seeing the system notification, Kinjian felt secretly pleased with himself, and his heart began to swell with pride. Upon hearing Kiyohiko's words, Shinobu Kocho stood rooted to the spot, motionless for a long time. She watched the boy on the bed start whimpering and complaining of hunger again, her fingers gripping the knife handle tightening and loosening repeatedly. For a fleeting moment, she saw a glimmer of light in the boy's eyes that resembled her sister's. That kind of selfless gentleness, that kind of foolishness willing to hurt oneself to save others. There are no more rice balls. But there are a few fish in the kitchen, I'll have someone bring them over for you. Besides. Shinobu stepped forward and tidied Kiyohiko's disheveled blankets, earnestly instructing him, rest for a bit now. The hidden army members will come to take you to see the Lord and the pillars in a little while. Our Lord believes in you, but the other pillars still have reservations about you. Once you get there, no matter what happens, you must endure it. I believe in you. After Shinobu Kocho finished speaking, that signature gentle smile reappeared on her lips. If my older sister were still alive, she would definitely love this strange ghost. It's not impossible for humans and ghosts to coexist peacefully. Miss Shinobu, can I ask you for a favor? Tell me, maybe I'll consider it. Could you please say moshi moshi? I really want to hear it, please. Elder sister. Indeed, this strange ghost should be killed. Chapter 12. Sometimes, Kiyohiko really wondered if there was something wrong with his luck. If you were to ask Kiyohiko, what could be worse than waking up to find yourself tied to a bed, with a woman whose bond level is negative and who's constantly fiddling with her Nichiren blade? Kiyohiko's answer was, yes, Baoyu's brother. At this moment, Kiyohiko was kneeling in the center of the room, his hands tied behind his back. And in the shadows in front of him stood a row of figures. 9 people. They were all different in appearance and expression, but the fighting spirit emanating from each of them was like a tangible blade, aimed directly at his throat. Kiyohiko glanced at it, and system prompts kept appearing in his mind. Detected Iguro Obanai's bond value, -15. Detected Kyojuro Rengoku's bond level, -23. Detected the bond value between Ximing Island and Xingming, -28. Detected Mitsurai Kanroji bond level, 15. Wait, what am I seeing? There are positive numbers. Are there angels among these fierce-looking people? Kiyohiko looked at the message notification and saw a cute girl with an adorable smile and her hair braided into pigtails. Her unique, vibrant cherry blossom pink and grass green hues were particularly eye-catching in the sunlight. Seemingly sensing Kiyohiko's gaze, Kanroji Mitsurai turned to look at him, their eyes meeting. Ugh, why is that strange ghost staring at me? Mitsurai felt a little embarrassed by the stares and cupped her flushed cheeks in her hands. How adorable! Seeing Mitsurai's reaction, Kiyohiko felt a pang of emotion. She's much better than that wicked woman who only knows how to feed herself poisoned tea. Check Obanai Iguro's bond value, current bond value, -30. What? How could it drop so much all of a sudden? What did I do wrong this time? Kiyohiko looked over, and the killing intent surrounding the serpent pillar was almost solidified into a physical form. If looks could kill, Kiyohiko would probably be dead a dozen times over by now, chopped into mincemeat. Okay, let's forget about that person. If I keep watching, it's going to turn into a case of the bandaged monster murdering people. Kiyohiko lowered his head, looking at no one, and remained silent. He found that since his transmigration, from the hand demon to Shinobu Kocho, and now to this moment, everything has gone wrong for him. He hadn't done anything wrong, yet other people's bond points were plummeting like a roller coaster. If I do nothing now, will there be any problems? According to Shinobu Kocho, the Lord approves of her, so her goal is clear. Once the Lord arrives, all problems will be solved. The only problem is that volatile maniac, Sanami Kaze-hachi. Kiyohiko isn't afraid of him suddenly stabbing him, but he's afraid that he might cut his hand and cause some kind of bloody mess at the slightest provocation. Kiyohiko was genuinely afraid that he wouldn't be able to resist the temptation. But if he just stays here like an ostrich and ignores everyone, he can't possibly have a reason to do that, can he? At that moment, a piercing scream rang out in the room. Whoa! Why? Why is Kiyohiko-san tied up? And who are these people? Their eyes are so scary. To his left, Tanjiro was kneeling with a serious expression. Although cold sweat was beading on his forehead, his back was straight and his gaze was fixed firmly ahead. To his right, Zenitsu was practically sprawled on the ground, his hands gripping Tanjiro's haori tightly, his face covered in tears and snot, emitting a series of ear-piercing noises. "Be quiet, Zenai!" Tanjiro whispered a reminder, then looked up and shouted in a loud voice. "Please let me explain. Although he is a demon, he has never eaten a human. On Mount Fujikasane, he even sacrificed himself to withstand the attack of the hand demon in order to save me and the other examinees. If he were an evil demon, he could have easily eaten us to regain his strength." "Shut up, you redhead!" A cold, piercing voice interrupted Tanjiro. The one speaking was the scarred man, the Wind Pillar, Sanemi Shinazugawa. His eyes were fierce, a cruel smile playing on his lips, and he toyed with the hilt of his Nichiren blade as he walked step by step toward Kiyohiko. "Ghosts don't eat people? I'm sick of hearing that joke." Sanemi stopped in front of Kiyohiko, looking down at him with undisguised disgust in his eyes. "Since it's a ghost, it should be killed. Please wait a moment. Mr. Shinazugawa." Tanjiro suddenly stood up to try to stop them, but was held down firmly by the members of the hidden unit behind him. Even a pillar shouldn't act arbitrarily without distinguishing right from wrong. "I don't approve of a pillar like that." "What? You brat, what are you saying?" Sanemi Shinazugawa was completely enraged by Tanjiro. A crisp sound of a sword being drawn echoed in the room as Sanemi drew his green Nichiren blade. "I'll show you his true colors right now." He brandished the knife with both hands, slashing his left arm fiercely. Bright red blood gushed out instantly, dripping onto the tatami mat. "Come on, you evil spirit!" Sanemi stretched out his bleeding arm in front of Kiyohiko, his smile twisted and crazed. "Don't you want to eat it? This is rare blood, you know. Show your true colors, and then I can rightfully chop off your head." Kiyohiko. Kiyohiko sometimes really wondered if he had some kind of bad luck. Tanjiro was the one who cursed him, but he was kneeling here doing nothing and saying nothing, yet he still got caught in the crossfire. Kiyohiko closed his eyes tightly, then abruptly turned his head to the other side, the veins on his neck bulging like writhing earthworms, his body trembling violently. "How could you resist watching?" The ferocity in Sanemi's eyes intensified. He clearly hadn't expected this demon's willpower to be so formidable. He suddenly reached out, grabbed Kiyohiko's hair, and forcibly turned his face towards the bleeding arm. "Stop pretending! Look at this! This is what you've been wanting most." The blood almost touched Kiyohiko's lips. In that instant, Kiyohiko's pupils contracted sharply to pinpoints, and the whites of his eyes instantly turned bloodshot and crimson. His defenses of reason crumbled with a crisp crack. "You've gone too far, Mr. Sanemi." Shinobu Kocho stood beside Sanemi without anyone noticing, her signature haori swaying slightly. Although her face still wore that perfect smiling mask, her purple eyes were now filled with ripples of emotion. She grasped Sanemi's arm and pulled him a little away. "If you were any closer, your thin blood would be dripping into his mouth." Just as Kiyohiko's rationality was about to collapse, two childlike yet solemn voices, like a clear spring, washed away the extremely tense atmosphere in the room. "Our Lord has arrived." Chapter 13. This announcement seemed to press the pause button on the world. The previously murderous Sanemi Shinazugawa froze, the madness in his eyes vanishing instantly, replaced by an almost reverent awe. He swiftly withdrew his arm, released Kiyohiko, took a step back, and knelt on the ground in a perfectly executed posture. The other pillars also stopped what they were doing, knelt down on one knee in unison, and bowed their heads in respect. "Hey? Hey? What's wrong? Why is everyone suddenly kneeling down?" Zenitsu was still in a daze when Tanjiro grabbed his head and forcefully pressed him down onto the tatami mat. Liar. A gracious bow. The moment everyone knelt down, Kiyohiko, having lost his support, fell heavily to the ground. The deadly allure was still there, but the tension of being surrounded by powerful figures and constantly on the verge of execution subtly shifted with the appearance of that man. The paper door was slowly pulled open. A man with purple lesions on his face, who was blind but exuded an aura of unparalleled tranquility, walked out, supported by two white-haired girls. "Good morning, everyone." Kaguya Yubayashiki's voice was as gentle as a spring breeze, dispelling the lingering somberness in the room. "The weather is so nice today. I'm so happy to see all the pillars together, even though there haven't been any changes in personnel for the past 6 months. Kiyohiko lay on the ground, panting heavily, his sweat soaking through the tatami mat beneath him. "We're saved. If this person hadn't appeared, he would have definitely taken the bite a second ago. My lord, we are to put this demon to trial here, along with Tanjiro Kamatu, the member who protected him." Although Sanamai was kneeling, his tone remained firm, only now with a touch more respect. "I don't approve of this ghost. Just now, he showed an extreme thirst for my blood. If I don't kill him, he will surely become a great threat in the future." Kaguya Yubayashiki's lifeless eyes seemed to be looking in Kiyohiko's direction, a gentle smile playing on his lips. "But, Sanamai, he didn't eat it, did he?" Kaguya Yubayashiki gently placed his fingers on the shoulder of the white-haired girl beside him, and his eyes, though blind, seemed to see through people's hearts as he turned towards the pillars. "Sanamai, thank you for the verification you conducted for Ritsu. Since this demon, despite being extremely hungry and injured, still refused the temptation of rare blood, this proves that he possesses rationality beyond instinct." Sanamai Shinazugawa gritted his teeth, his face full of resentment, but in front of his lord, he could only lower his head and roughly wrap his still bleeding arm with a strip of cloth. "Since it is our lord's judgment, I have nothing to say regarding Kiyohiko's whereabouts afterward." Kaguya Yubayashiki paused, a hint of relief creeping into his voice. "The insect pillar, Shinobu Kocho, has submitted her application to me." Upon hearing the name, Kiyohiko, who was lying on the ground, suddenly raised his head and looked incredulously at the petite figure standing beside him, draped in a butterfly-winged kimono. "Hey? That wicked woman? That woman who always smiles and says terrifying things?" Shinobu stated that she was willing to act as Kiyohiko's supervisor and guarantor. Kaguya Yubayashiki slowly said, "She will observe him, treat him, and conduct necessary experiments at the Butterfly Mansion. If Kiyohiko exhibits cannibalistic behavior, Shinobu Kocho will bear the corresponding responsibility." Furthermore, 6 of the final selected candidates offered to vouch for him. "Kiyohiko, you are trusted by many people." The entire audience erupted in commotion. Even Jiyu Tomioka glanced sideways at him. The insect pillar who hates demons the most? He's actually willing to vouch for a demon? Shinobu Kocho stepped forward, her face still bearing that signature, enigmatic smile. "Yes, my lord. Since this demon claims to possess human reason, I shall mercifully give him a chance. After all, he is indeed quite interesting as research material. Then, this matter is settled. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Kiyohiko, you must all strive to live on, for the future of humanity." With the Lord's words finished, this thrilling pillar meeting finally came to an end. "That's wonderful, Mr. Kiyohiko." As soon as the Lord left, Zenitsu rushed over with tears streaming down his face and clung tightly to Kiyohiko's leg. "You scared me to death. I thought you were really going to be killed." "Wah-ah-ah. Mr. Kiyohiko. I'm so glad you're all right." Tanjiro, his eyes also red, rushed over. The two boys, one on each side, hugged Kiyohiko tightly like sandwiches between hamburgers. Their warmth seeped through their clothes, bringing a long-lost comfort to Kiyohiko's cold body. "All right, that's enough of our reminiscing. A soft yet authoritative voice sounded above the three of them. Tanjiro and Zenitsu released their grip as if they had been electrocuted, and immediately sat up straight. Shinobu Kocho stood there, backlit, a perfect smile on her face, waving to the hidden squad members beside her. Team members Kamatu and Wagatsuma, now that things are over, you can both head back to the training grounds. As for this guy, she pointed to Kiyohiko, who was still tied up. Send it directly to my private lab later. Shinobu Kocho slowly crouched down, getting closer to Kiyohiko. They were too close. Kiyohiko could even see his disheveled appearance reflected in her purple pupils. A faint herbal scent lingered around his nose, mixed with the aroma of wisteria blossoms. Although it smelled a bit pungent, it made his heart race. Kiyohiko swallowed nervously, his body stiff as a rock. Shinobu Kocho saw his tense expression and a sly smile flashed in her eyes. She stretched out a finger and gently poked Kiyohiko's forehead, then leaned close to his ear. Warm breath hit my earlobe, sending a shiver of tingling pleasure through me. Moses, Moses. Her voice was very low, devoid of its usual politeness, carrying a hint of playfulness and a teasing tone that only the two of them could understand. You asked me to say that yourself, didn't you? From now on, please take care of me at the Butterfly Mansion, my experiment. After saying that, she stood up, clapped her hands, regained her dignified demeanor, turned and left, leaving only a graceful dancing figure behind. Kiyohiko stood there blankly, his mind a complete blank. Earlier in the hospital room, he wanted to hear about a famous scene, but after he told her, she threatened him with a Nichiren blade. And now, at this time, using this tone. That wicked woman definitely did it on purpose. Kiyohiko felt his cheeks burning, and his heart was beating even faster than when he was facing Sanemi Shinazugawa. No, Kiyohiko. She is a bad woman. You can't let her control you like that. Chapter 14. At the edge of the courtyard, several members of the hidden unit, dressed in all black uniforms and veiled, were busily packing their belongings. The sunlight mercilessly shone on the earth, and to Kiyohiko, a demon, this warm light was nothing short of deadly poison. He had to hide in the shade of a courtyard tree, watching his companions being taken away. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, if I die, remember to burn some paper money for me on this day next year. Kiyohiko looked utterly hopeless, his tone so tragic it was as if he were going to his execution. No, I might not even leave a corpse behind. That wicked woman, that Shinobu Kocho, she'll definitely cut me into pieces and subject me to endless, horrific human experimentation. Tanjiro looked puzzled upon hearing this. His clear, deep red eyes were filled with incomprehension, as if he were looking at a patient who was talking nonsense. Hey? Kiyohiko, what are you talking about? Shinobu-san seems like a very gentle person. Tanjiro thought carefully for a moment, although she had a faint scent of anger about her, she offered to take care of you. It must be because she wants to heal you, right? You should be happy. Happy my foot. She's all smiles hiding a knife. She's a devil inside and out. Shut up, UBD. Stop acting all innocent after getting the better deal. A heart-wrenching scream shattered the sorrow of parting. Zenitsu, though still with snot and tears streaming down his face, now looked at Kiyohiko with eyes blazing with a burning jealousy. That's a beauty. A super beautiful older sister. Her voice is as sweet as a wind chime, and she smells wonderful. Zenitsu was so excited that he danced around and pointed at Kiyohiko's nose, cursing loudly. I heard it. She just whispered in your ear, didn't she? That's a distance only lovers make, right? And you dare call that a demon? I want to be made into a specimen by a demon like that too. I want to be imprisoned by her too. Go to hell. Can't you take my place instead? Seeing Zenitsu's expression, as if he wanted to devour him alive, Kiyohiko's lips twitched. As expected of Zenitsu, he becomes a completely different person when talking about pretty older women. I cannot agree with your twisted ideas. Alright, gentlemen, it's getting late. A member of the hidden unit walked over carrying a specially made, opaque backpack, interrupting the farce. He glanced at Kiyohiko, who was hiding in the shadows, with some fear. Lord Kiyohiko, although the Lord has given the order, the sunlight is too strong right now, and we cannot transport you directly. Could you perhaps? I know, you want to go into the box, right? Kiyohiko took a deep breath and circulated his blood. With a slight grinding sound of bones and a cloud of white smoke, the boy's figure rapidly shrank. The smoke cleared. The once 1.8-meter tall boy had become a childhood version of Kiyohiko, only the size of an 8 or 9-year-old child. The oversized hospital gown instantly became like a sack covering his body, with the long sleeves trailing on the ground, revealing only his 2 small hands. So cute! Tanjiro sighed unconsciously, his expression softening further. Eek! Why is turning into a ghost so unfair? Isn't this just to gain girls' sympathy? How cunning! Zenitsu was even more frantic. He could almost see Shinobu Kocho hugging the shrunken guy and shouting "Kawaii!" He completely lost his composure. Kiyohiko ignored the crazed Zenitsu. He clumsily lifted his overly long coat hem and, with his short legs, climbed into the backpack that the hidden squad member had placed on the ground. Well then, see you next time, Tanjiro, Zenitsu. He poked his little head out of the box and took one last look at them. Target character's current bond level, LV.2, bond value, 34. Target character's current bond level, LV.2, bond value, 21. It's great. Just chatting and joking around makes our bond level keep increasing. Unlike that big, fluttering moth. We all have to survive. Okay. See you next time. Take care, Kiyohiko. Tanjiro waved his hand forcefully. If you haven't been turned into a specimen by the next time we meet, remember to introduce me to that beautiful lady. Zenitsu was still shouting. Click. The box door closed, and the world was plunged into darkness. As the stealth unit members shouldered their boxes and began to run, a slight jolt could be felt. In this small, dark, yet safe space, Kiyohiko closed his eyes. For some reason, in the darkness, that purple figure and that soft moshi once again uncontrollably surfaced in my mind. Several tens of minutes later, the jolt finally stopped. Click. That was the sound of a latch being pried open. Then, the tightly sealed wooden planks were slowly pushed open, and blinding sunlight streamed into the dark box through the gaps. Kiyohiko instinctively shrank back, shielding his eyes with his chubby little hands. Moshi, it's time for your inspection, Mr. Ghost. That familiar, chilling voice rang out above me. It carried a hint of mockery and a touch of lightness, like a delicate butterfly alighting on my heart. Kiyohiko moved his hand away and squinted. The first thing that caught his eye was the Haori, its colors as vibrant as butterfly wings, swaying gently in the breeze. Then came that exquisitely beautiful, yet unsettlingly smiling face. Shinobu Kocho was crouching in front of the box, her hands supporting her chin, her purple eyes brimming with bright curiosity, staring intently at the tiny figure huddled inside. Oh dear, now that it's shrunk, it looks even more like a harmless cub. Shinobu Kocho extended a slender finger and gently poked Kiyohiko's round cheek, her voice as soft as if coaxing a child. How are you? Are you comfortable in the box? Have you felt any urge to eat the transporter? Stop poking, your face will get smudged. The young Kiyohiko slapped away the restless hand, his voice so childish that it made him blush with embarrassment. Is this a shadowy spot? I need to change back, I'm not used to the way she speaks in this form. As he spoke, the small body began to expand rapidly, like an inflating balloon. Accompanied by a slight crackling sound of bones shifting in a wisp of white smoke, the ridiculously oversized hospital gown was stretched out again. As the smoke cleared, the boy reappeared in the shadows of the corridor. Still somewhat stiff from his recent recovery, his once neat uniform was askew due to the previous shrinkage and current expansion, the collar hanging loosely on his shoulders, revealing a small patch of his collarbone. Chapter 15. Ha! I'm finally alive! Kiyohiko stood up, supporting himself with the wooden box behind him. Before he could even steady himself, a delicate fragrance suddenly wafted to his nose. Shinobu Kocho had stood up at some point and moved closer. She was considerably shorter than Kiyohiko now, but the unhurried and imposing aura she exuded made him instinctively take a step back. The recovery is faster than expected, and muscle tone hasn't decreased too much due to hunger. Shinobu tilted her head slightly, observing his face up close. His uneasy expression was reflected in his purple pupils, she could even count his trembling eyelashes. Your patience is truly something to study. Just now, in front of the Lord, the way you almost cried but desperately turned your head away was quite a spectacular performance. Hey, I mean, that doesn't sound like your line. Kiyohiko blushed as he retorted, trying to hide the embarrassment of his racing heart. Also, Miss Shinobu, although I am a demon, men and women should not touch each other. You are getting too close. Aira, are you shy? Shinobu Kocho's eyes lit up with a smile, as if she had discovered something amazing. Instead of backing away, she reached out and gently lifted Kiyohiko's askew collar, slowly and methodically straightening it. Since you've become my guardian, be prepared to be thoroughly studied. His fingertips brushed against the skin of her neck, sending a jolt of electricity through him. Kiyohiko froze. He stared at the smiling woman before him, his inner alarm bells beating wildly. She really is a bad woman. All right, stop standing there like a block of wood. Shinobu withdrew her hand, turned gracefully, and her haori drew a beautiful arc in the air. She took out a slender needle from her sleeve, the tip of which gleamed coldly in the candle light. Come on, Mr. Ghost, now that we're adults again, let's do some things adults do like a blood test. Wait a minute. Isn't this progressing too fast? And isn't this needle a little too thick? Moshi? Are you listening? Mr. Ghost doesn't have the right to refuse. The butterfly approached with a forced smile. All right, PK me however you like, just be gentle. Kiyohiko sighed, resignedly rolled up his sleeves, and stretched out his strong forearm. The cold needle tip pierced the skin, followed by a slight stinging sensation. Normally, Kiyohiko would have been nauseated by the stench of wisteria blossoms that filled the room, a smell he found comparable to fermented herring and durian. But at this moment, his thoughts, like a wild horse, soared to the heavens. Although he has just gained the master's approval, he can't just wander around alone because of his identity as a demon. He probably won't see Tanjiro and Zenitsu for a while. If he wants to increase his bond with the demons, he can only start with the people in the Butterfly Mansion. Let me think, who's in the Butterfly Mansion? Kaneo, that strange child, it's a bit difficult to raise my favorability with her. I feel like I might not get a single reply even if I say 10 things to her. Moses. I remember there was another girl in the Butterfly Mansion, her name was, I can't quite remember, what was her name again, owie? Mr. Ghost. As for that wicked woman, never mind. I don't want to mention her. With my emotional intelligence, I'll crush this wicked woman under my feet sooner or later, ha ha ha. Inside the examination room, Shinobu Kocho stared at the demon before her. Half the blood had been drawn from the syringe, and the dark red liquid slowly rose in the glass tube. Normally, watching one's blood being drawn would cause some physical discomfort or tension, whether one is human or ghost. But this stupid ghost was different. Not only did he not even frown, but his once bright eyes had completely lost their luster, staring blankly at the corner of the wall. What baffled Shinobu Kocho the most was that, not only did this guy space out, but he also occasionally wore a extremely strange smile that was a mix of silliness and smugness. Shinobu's smile froze for a moment, and a small well shape appeared on her forehead. They were ignored. Moses, Moses! She called again softly, her voice twice as sweet, and twice as dangerous. Kiyohiko showed no reaction. It seems Mr. Ghost might need a head check-up too. Shinobu Kocho was still smiling, but that smile had become somewhat kind. She didn't pull out the needle, instead, she extended her other hand, her slender index finger bent, aiming at Kiyohiko's smooth forehead. Thump! A crisp flick on the forehead. Ouch! 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 Who attacked me? Finally snapped out of it. Shinobu Kocho pulled out the needle, deftly pressed a cotton ball against the puncture site, and her purple eyes gleamed. This is the first time I've ever seen someone so distracted while having their blood drawn. What, are they thinking about how to escape? Or are they wondering, how delicious my blood will be? She deliberately moved closer, and the fragrance of wisteria blossoms wafted over you in an even stronger way. Ugh, cough cough. Don't get so close. Kiyohiko's expression changed, this time he was genuinely feeling unwell. He pinched his nose, tilted his head back, and looked disgusted. Who wants to drink your blood? It all reeks of wisteria. I'm thinking about something very important in my life, don't interrupt my inspiration. Butterfly paused for a moment, then narrowed her eyes. Although I already knew he hated wisteria, it was still infuriating and funny that he always said such blunt things. Kiyohiko loosened his grip on his nose slightly, but his brow remained furrowed. I've actually wanted to ask this for a while now, why do you smell so strongly of wisteria? This concentration is more than what you could achieve with a sachet or perfume, isn't it? Kiyohiko looked Shinobu up and down, his eyes less playful than before, and more filled with confusion and a strange concern that Kiyohiko couldn't quite put his finger on. Do you roll around in these flowers every day? Or do you eat wisteria blossoms every day? I know this stuff can ward off ghosts, but don't you feel uncomfortable turning yourself into a walking poison gas bomb? Shinobu Kocho paused slightly as she arranged the medical equipment, her back to Kiyohiko stiffening for a moment. But she quickly recovered, turning around with that perfect, flawless smile still on her face. Oh dear, this is for self-defense. Her voice was soft, as if she were discussing the weather. After all, I don't possess the power to sever demon heads like the other pillars, I can only rely on these little tricks to protect myself. What, Mr. Demon, do you find the smell unpleasant? This is something that can make a naughty child like you behave. Chapter 16. It's not that it smells bad, it's just, never mind, it really stinks to me. Kiyohiko pursed his lips, looking at the petite girl in front of him. Her smile was so beautiful, but behind that smile always made him feel a chill. She was clearly a pillar with the highest ranking swordsman title, so why did she have to arm herself in this way? A strange impulse welled up inside me. Perhaps Kiyohiko wanted the nauseating smell to disappear as soon as possible. Yes, that's it. Hey, why don't you stop tending to these wisteria flowers every day? Kiyohiko suddenly sat up straight. Although the smell was giving him a headache, he still looked intently into Shinobu's purple eyes. If you can't kill the ghost, or if you encounter any difficult opponents, let me know. He patted his fairly muscular chest. I'll kill it for you. Although I haven't fully recovered yet, and I can't beat you, I'm still, well, a demon with potential. Instead of letting myself get stuck in this mess, how about you trust me, the future strongest? Shinobu Kocho stared blankly at the boy before her. He was a demon, the creature she had hated all her life, the same kind of person who had caused her sister's death. But he said, he'd help her kill? Was it because they disliked the smell on her, or because they felt sorry for her, that they made such an absurd suggestion? This is simply ridiculous. It was so funny that she actually felt a momentary burning sensation in her eyes. You really are a strange fellow. After a long while, Butterfly lowered her eyes, her long eyelashes concealing the emotions within. She chuckled softly, a laugh that seemed to have lost some of its usual pretense and gained a hint of genuine helplessness. Stop making such grand pronouncements when you can actually walk in the sunlight. Detected Shinobu's bond level has increased, current bond level, 5. Hearing the system notification, Kinjian felt a surge of pride. Although his words were unintentional, and he didn't know why his bond value had suddenly increased so much, none of that mattered. What mattered was that his bond value had finally reached a positive number. This is my normal level of emotional intelligence. Shinobu Kocho raised her head again, her eyes regaining their clarity, but her tone was slightly gentler than before. All right, the check is over. The hidden ones will take you to your room. It's specially made, there are no wisteria flowers, so you can breathe your fresh air to your heart's content. Since it's a specially made room, the amenities must be pretty good, right? Kiyohiko rubbed his hands together, a fawning smile on his face, leaning forward slightly. Do you have a soft bed? The kind you can sink into when you lie down? And, most importantly, do you have rice that isn't rice balls? I'm not picky, as long as it's not filled with wisteria blossoms. He lowered his voice, winked at Shinobu Kocho, and let out a few meaningful laughs. It would be best to bring some pig's blood, duck's blood, or something like that, hee, you know what I mean. After all, I'm a demon too. Even though I don't eat people, I still need to replenish my iron, right? Every little bit helps. The faint, lingering sense of romance and emotion that had just begun to rise in the air burst instantly, like a soap bubble being popped, the moment Kinjian spoke. Shinobu Kocho's smile froze. Was this guy doing it on purpose? That moment of weakness was like feeding a raven. She took a deep breath, her hand gripping the syringe so tightly that the veins bulged and made a sickening clicking sound. Mr. Ghost. Shinobu's voice remained gentle, but that sweetness was clearly mixed with a lethal dose of arsenic. Do you think the Butterfly Mansion is a hot spring inn? Or is the blood I just drew not enough, and I need to bleed you a little more to sober you up? Detected Shinobu's bond level has increased. Current bond level, -1. Kiyohiko instantly turned to stone and shattered, becoming completely lifeless. He didn't understand why this woman had suddenly changed her mind. Seeing Kiyohiko's expression, Shinobu Kocho sighed and rubbed her forehead. That idiot, what is he thinking now? No. Shinobu closed her eyes briefly, and when she opened them again, she had forcibly suppressed the urge to hit someone, replaced by a look of disdain for a troublemaker. Although the Butterfly Mansion isn't a restaurant, we still have animal blood. I'll have Aoi prepare it. But... She suddenly leaned closer to Kinjian, her purple eyes fixed on him, a dangerous smile playing on her lips. If you dare to complain about the taste, or use that as an excuse to attack someone, my poison is always ready for you. I understand. I understand. I'm definitely not picky about food. I'm lucky if I get anything to eat. Kiyohiko immediately raised his hands in surrender, looking obedient, as if afraid of doing something wrong that would cause his bond value to drop. Just then, there was a knock on the door of the examination room. A fully armed member of the undercover team, with only his eyes showing, cautiously peeked in. Lord Insect Pillar, the room is ready. Take him there. Shinobu Kocho waved her hand, as if shooing away a fly. Remember to send him the remaining pig's blood from the kitchen. Don't let him starve, after all, the Lord still wants to see him. Kiyohiko jumped off the examination bed. Although he was still a little weak, he was in high spirits. At least he wouldn't go hungry tonight. He walked to the door, then suddenly stopped and glanced back at Shinobu Kocho, who was packing up her equipment.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं, फिल्मोरा है ना?